Welcome back, friends, to the shop. It's been said that discretion is the better part of valor. But I say that sharing your welds publicly on YouTube is the highest form of valor that there is, or it takes the most courage anyway. So today we're going to be doing a little welding. We actually are going to weld up the vise pedestal for the old classic Wilton. I'm going to share with you just kind of a basic kit. If you're not real familiar, we'll just go over it real quickly. I'm not the expert. I was taught to weld by my granddad with the old Lincoln stick welder, right? We used to build trailers and different things. I graduated up, bought my first wire feed, and when I had my Jeep parts business, did a lot of fabricating and bracketry, but I've always been a hack. You know, I've never been a pro or anything, but I've learned a few things along the way. So this is going to be kind of set up for the layman, so you guys that are pros, have patience with us, and we'll do the best we can. This is the first Miller that I've owned. I bought this Miller-Matic 211 last year after my ESOB was acting up on me on a project that was time sensitive. I had a little mini Tourette's episode, and I just threw it in the garbage and went and bought this, and I've been happy ever since. I fought that hateful ESOB for I don't know how long. Great little machine. What's kind of nice about this one is it gives you an option of 110 or 240, so you can have lots of versatility there, and it's got an automatic mode. And for professional homeowners like myself, you know, we don't remember details all that well, and it gets a little confusing, wire speed and temperature and all these things. This takes care of all that for you. So you can just simply open it up, and you can just look and see through the chart here what type of metal you're going to be welding, how thick is it, and what size is your wire. With the 211, you don't have to remember anything. You just 1, 2, 3. Start from left to right, just like you read a book, right? You pick your steel thickness, right? So we turn this dial up there. We're going to do 1/4 inch, right? 1/4 inch. We're going to weld steel. You can do stainless, flux cord, MIG, aluminum, you know, the whole thing, mild steel. And then we're going to choose our wire size. I've got a 0.24 wire in there. Now when the blue light's on, that tells me it's okay. Now if I wanted to weld 3/8, if I turn that up here, that's going to flash. That's going to tell me, no, that's not a proper setting. You don't have big enough wire. So I'd swap out for a 030 wire, and I'd be good. Once you get your welder picked out, there's not a whole lot you need. You might want to get a welding shirt. You can weld in a Carhartt. The only thing is if you have to weld overhead, those sparks will burn right through just about everything. So stay away from anything synthetic. It'll catch fire on you. A welding helmet, I'd probably get an auto darkening one. You can save a few bucks by just getting one that's just dark, but the auto darkening ones are kind of nice because you can see through it when you're trying to line up your work, and then you can start your weld and it'll automatically tint. A grinder, a couple clamps, maybe some jigs, a few things, some side cutters. That's about it. Some heavy gloves. That's about all you need. It's not difficult. Well, that magnetic drill wasn't the only thing I bought at the welding shop. I was checking out, and on the counter, they had these little guys here. I didn't even know that these things existed, but these are really cool. So one of the problems that comes up when you're welding is, let's say you want to do a 90-degree angle like this, right? So you got to hold this thing into place until you can get that stuck, get that weld in there, right? Well, I've used these terrible things, and they're okay for a while here, where you can stick that on there. It's magnetic. It actually works pretty good. I don't want to diss on it that much. But I've also found that the magnets are not very powerful, and they do tend to move around on me. Check this little guy out here. So this is essentially that same thing, but you can turn it off. So you see it's not sticking there. So you can place it. So you can easily place everything right where you want it without fighting that magnet. But here's the cool part. You see that little crank there? You turn that crank to the on position, and now your magnet sticks, right? So if you want to, and it really sticks. I kid you guys not, but this holds super, super strong. You know, way stronger than that other one does. Isn't that nice? So you can easily do 90s. Just to give you an idea of how powerful this thing really is. Of course, our block of steel here, all you engineer types told me that this came in at about 42 pounds. That's what the general consensus was. So this is a over 40-pound piece of solid steel, and this little tiny magnet, look at this. Amazing, huh? Before we start welding, it's critical to have everything really clean, free of rust. You just don't want any contaminants in there. We're going to be using these flap wheel grinding discs. I've never used them before. My friend Ray turned me on to them and said he really liked them. They come in all different grits. He said they do a nice job. So we'll try that out. We'll report back to you on that. Oh, that looks a lot nicer. That flap wheel does a great job. It's not near as gnarly as the grinding wheel. It keeps everything nice and smooth. I don't think I'll go back to those old grinding wheels. Now, a couple of you guys suggested that we might want to knock the corners off of these because this is going to be up underneath, you know, where our knee's going to come in contact. And some of you guys who do a lot of this said you've ripped your knees on plates like this. So let's take that grinder and we'll just knock those corners off a little bit. We got our plate cleaned up. We got our top plate and a bottom plate right there. Another little tidbit I picked up from you guys that I didn't think about was some of you guys told me, don't do 4 holes in this. That's too small of an area to put 4 concrete mollies in. It's just going to break out. It's actually going to undermine. It's going to do more harm than good. He said, just put 2 holes in there. And that makes perfect sense. 2 holes less to drill, 2 mollies less to use, and there's just no need for it. I didn't even think about that. Let's see how we did here. Yeah, that looks better. On second thought, guys, I think I'm going to cut this to length now. So I bolted the plate on there. So we're going to come in just like this. Yeah, I think we should probably dry fit this here. That plumb, and then I'll scribe on the back side, and then we'll cut it. Accordingly. Let's see how we did. Hopefully I got it right, because that's the only piece of steel I have. That's going to be perfect. Boy, that's going to be good and solid. I was thinking, I was probably overthinking things here. But I remember my neighbor Henry, he had the biggest vise I think I've ever seen before. He said he got it from the railroad. It must have been this big. I don't know how big it opened, but I'll bet it opened 16 inches. It was the biggest vise I'd ever seen. He had it sitting on a big old pedestal, a well casing on a great big old chunk of steel. I don't know where he got all that stuff. Everything he had was so heavy duty. And it wasn't bolted down. And I made some sort of a comment to him, well, Hank, you ought to bolt that thing down. You know, it's going to move on you when you're reefing on it. And he just laughed at me. He's like, hey, thing ain't going to move. He had filled that pedestal. I think it was square. Yeah, it was like a square. It was like 12 inches by 12 inches, a couple feet high. He'd filled it full of solid lead. So it didn't go anywhere. He was trying to move it, and I did, and I couldn't. So, but I was thinking it would be kind of cool to fill this up with lead shot. I went on Amazon to price it, but that stuff's so expensive. And I'm like, oh, it's not necessary, but just a little bit more mass. And we're not going to do that. Let's go get fitted up for welding. I've got the layout here, kind of where I want it. Now this is the front right there, the front of the bench. I decided rather than center it over the vise, I'm going to hold it back a little bit just to pick up an extra inch or so of leg room there, get it off the front of that bench. 4 inches to the front edge, and then center it this way. All right, looks good. I didn't quite get the burn in there, enough heat that I'd like to, but I don't have the right wire. The wire I have is small. It's 0.023, and that's the highest setting it's recommending on there. So I'll try to hold it on there a little bit longer. You know, welding is a diminishing skill. It's like shooting. If you don't do it all the time, you really have to kind of relearn it over again. But we'll do the best we can here. These are not great welds. It's just not enough heat. It's not burnt down in there. You see how it's kind of sticking up a little bit too high. I've got the wrong size wire. You know, this wire is supposed to be maxed for 3/16, and I'm doing quarter here. Same thing there. Not super great penetration. Will it work for what we're doing? Yeah. That's kind of what you get though from getting up off the couch, you know, and start welding, you know, and you haven't done it for, that's hot. Don't take me long to turn something. Well, that's what we ended up with, guys. Not very good. Terrible penetration. Just not hot enough. Kind of just sitting on top there, right there. But it's stuck. I'm going to get some heavier wire on the next one. I don't think I've welded this thick of stuff with this little welder before. They say it's 3/8 is top of it, or as far as it goes. But I've got the smallest wire. I've got wire for really small stuff, and I don't really have the knowledge to know. There's probably something I could have done. I just don't know how to do that. But that's it. That's what we'll get. That's what we get so far, so it'll work. Next time we'll clean it all up, put a nice coat of paint on it, some satin black, molly those holes in, get it all mounted up, and test it out. But I think it'll work out just fine. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I always appreciate it. If you don't mind, take a moment, click the thumbs up. I always appreciate your comments. Let me know, those of you guys, as I've always said, Wranglerstar subscribers are the smartest on YouTube, and always get good tips and advice. It's fun doing this with you guys because as I can kind of talk through the process, guys with more experience come in and just give me lots of little ideas, just like doing 2 holes on the base instead of 4, and rounding the edges, all those little things. I appreciate that because we all learn something from one another, and I end up with something that's going to be better because of those tips, and I appreciate that. So thanks for watching. Please keep my family in your prayers. We always pray for you guys. May God bless you and your families, and we'll see you guys on the next video.